Hello, this is a Bluthner style 4-gram piano made in 1933, 4 foot 11 inches long, 550 centimetres. It's a style of piano that we are really keen to stock, and this actually belongs to a client and he wants it assessed. And it's got a problem that a lot of the Bluthners of this age do have, and we've come across it quite frequently. And we'll look at what that is in a minute. We'll have a look at the case first of all, and the case is in reasonable condition. Obviously could be repolished. We often do repolish this model because particularly one of our favourites, and you can see some waxes there. Well, that can be taken off without any problem, and the piano can be made good. And it's not one, if it was a stock piano, I think we'd probably sell it less expensively without repolishing, which takes 70 hours, so you have to strip down and completely redo the whole piano. But looking around the case of this, it's generally quite good. Our polisher can make the case good, as it were, try to get rid of all the defects on it. The top lid doesn't have a fade line, which is encouraging. That often does when you lift that up. And it's beautiful actually. It's original polish, and it does come out really beautifully when it's repolished too, but this does already look good, so there's no need for that unless you particularly want it to look absolutely perfect. Now look at the keys. They are in top condition as well. They do need buffing. They've got very dirty. If you don't buff the keys, then they attract dirt, so they need to be shiny, and you see these end ones are shinier, so the whole lot will be can be buffed, cleaned and buffed at the same time, and that will make it perfect. Then there's no sign of any of the ivories having come off. Quite common for Bluthner ivories to come off, and you can see this line here is stronger then. Now, tuning pins are reasonably tight. That's obviously something that's very important. Medium tight, I'd say, certainly don't need replacing. They could possibly be set if one or two are slightly loose, but I didn't find any. And the tone of the strings is reasonably good too, especially around here. It's excellent. Around here, the bass notes could be improved by replacing all the strings, or possibly turning them, putting an extra turn in the direction of the coil. Often does liven them up. These are original bass strings. You can tell with Bluthners it's got this type of coning here, which is sort of instead of having a ridge that you get on most strings, you've got a cone going right through to the end. There's a Bluthner that's been restrung by the restorer, and you can see a slight ridge there. Actually, normally there's a much bigger ridge if you look at new pianos. But this has been styled to look a bit more like a Bluthner. So restringing the bass would make them more lively, and something worth considering. But if you did that, you want to restring the whole piano, and round here is good tone. You might have noticed that some of them are blocking on the string, and that immediately I saw that, I immediately thought that had this common problem that Bluthner Star 4s do have. So sure enough, on these action standards, this is what holds the action together. As the metal develops fatigue on a lot of the Bluthner grands of this age. This is 1930s, and if you look at it close up, you can see clearly the metal is perishing. Look from the top here, you can see it's very cracked indeed. So as that metal develops fatigue, the whole of it expands, it moves around, and the action regulation gets thrown right out. Sometimes you find pianos where they didn't realise that was the problem. You find they add extra felts on here just to get the let off to work properly. That's what wasn't working properly earlier. So the whole thing needs re-regulating. I also noticed curiously that these two on this section of hammers here, you've got two that somebody's tried to shave off a bit of the hammer, and that's usually because they're very close to the frame and touching the frame. So these end ones here, they often do touch the frame. If you see the frame, the metal frame is quite close to the hammer's coming quite close to it, but in fact it's a long way away compared to what it can be. It can literally be touching, and that's quite common on this style and the older Bluthner grands as well. So that's something to watch. When the piano's had new hammers put on, sometimes you do find they're a bit close to the frame. So I think what's happened, I spoke to our technician about this too to confirm that what I thought might have happened is that the action has bode's gone out of adjustment so much, the regulation, the geometry of it, that used to be closer to the frame than it is now. So it's quite far away now. So I've checked, and my colleagues told me we do have some new action standards in, so we can fit them, and then it just needs completely re-regulating. Very often bits of regulation have been tried before they have been repaired, so therefore that's thrown the regulation out more than usual. It's a common thing, as I mentioned before. The piano hasn't been incredibly used. It may be that the standards perished very early on, and therefore the piano became a little bit unusable, and that because there's not a huge wear here on the rollers. I think they need lubricating. They can be replaced, obviously that would improve them slightly, and the hammers are good original hammers. They have been worked on slightly, but generally the felts are excellent. So I've assessed the piano in detail, but concentrated on the main things here, which was replacing action standards. I didn't mention that the legs need strengthening. My colleague who does the removals sent a message through about the legs really needing strengthening on this piano. It's quite common. We need to check and strengthen the legs as they've been moved around a lot. Sometimes it's the bolts that aren't quite tight, or the legs just need strengthening. There might be some problem on them, so obviously we'll look at that. And the keys need buffing. Well, that's something pretty standard, and the weighting of the keys is quite good, generally speaking. It's something that we obviously try and concentrate on and get them like a new piano. That's not far off, actually. So I think when the balance rail is lubricated, which we've mentioned many times before, that will solve that problem. So action standards, and then it'll need fully re-regulating. It's a very big job because the regulation's usually been changed because the action standards have perished, and then somebody's very often tried regulating it, so it's out of regulation completely. So that's a Bluthner style 4 grand piano made in 1933, and the tone is exquisite, really. It's as good tone as anyone I've come across, so that's wonderful to hear. But the action is completely thrown out, the regulation. I'm managing to play it. I'm used to obviously playing all sorts of pianos that need regulation and can manage to get it to work, but I'm having the pedal down because that means when they block against the string I can go like that. That one's blocking. With the pedal down I can just hit it gently and it'll sound. If the bass strings were replaced, they would be a little bit, let's say 15% richer tone. And there's the option to obviously fully restore the piano. If it was in stock, we would not do that. I think we change the action standards. We would regulate the piano so it plays like a new piano. There's no reason why you shouldn't study on a Bluthner of this age. They're so exquisite sounding, really. To me, the best age for baby grand pianos was 1930s. And I'm already enjoying it, so I think once the action's been regulated and once the action standards are replaced and it's regulated, it'll just be superb. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a piano that you'd like us to assess with a view to restoring it, then please do contact us, info@robertspianos.com.